Crumweedy. Lemie. McGinnis.
Here.
McTaggart. Awful.
Here.
Persley.
Present.
Raymond. Shore.
Yep, here.
Sticknot.
Present.
Whitlow.
Here.
14 present.
Mrs. Awful.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time to gather. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of this great county. And we ask as this month gets going forward with budget and everything that's important, that you give everyone wisdom on how to properly predict the future, to know how to spend the money that the people have given us. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Before we begin the Pledge of Allegiance, let us observe a moment of silence to honor former County Board Member John Dowling and his wife Rita, who passed away on June 16th. Amen.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone has a copy of the agenda in front of them. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Mrs. Awful, is there a second? Mr. Behrens, are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion is approved. Everyone was sent a copy of the minutes from the June 12, 2018 meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Mr. Behrens, is there a second? Mr. Bills, are there any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Payroll. Mr. Hasbar makes the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Bowman, are there any questions or comments on the payroll? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Hasbarger.
Yes.
Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful. Persley.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
14.
Motion is approved, 14-0. Public comments. Mr. Ponder.
Yes. As you're aware, in the past couple of years,
Speak real loud, please.
as you're aware, the past couple of years, I have done a spreadsheet on test scores for Iroquois County schools, and this year I'm getting them out late, and I only have 2 copies because I think it was last year I had a bunch up here and nobody took them. So can I give these to you?
That would be fine.
I have one for you and secretary, and you can run off anybody who wants them. There's a spreadsheet for math and English language arts. And it's kind of interesting to look at. And one that I would point out on those who are ready for high school math, I put a plug in for my district down there in Milford'sville. 50%. No other school in the county is anywhere near that. And I point that out because I know the reason, okay? And the reason is, and I shouldn't say this as a retired teacher, but the reason is the math teacher there is really not an education teacher. He has a degree from Northwestern in engineering, so he knows more math than most master's degrees in education math, so. And it shows on those test scores. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments this morning? Seeing none, we'll go to outside organization reports. Mr. McGinnis.
Yesterday, I attended the ICANN Regional Education Committee up at their new office. They're finishing up, they're on 2 budget years. They're on the education one, which is July 1st because of the school, and then the county cycle. So they have some grants that fund a couple positions that will be expiring at the end of July and are non-renewable. They are running just under budget. They're expecting a slight increase for next year, and I gave the chairman the projected budget request so that we can plan that. The big thing that Dr. Murphy talked about is the new education formula, and now there's going to be 2 grading criterias coming out. The traditional one where they look at straight academics and testing based on the SATs and the PARCC. And something to note is on that test, if a school is labeled Tier 1, that is bad. Okay? The second formula that has come out is based on how much money the school spends, and that calculates in how much money the state puts in, how much property taxes are put in, and then they look at the student performance. And they basically look at bang for buck. How much money is going in and what are you getting for that money? Tier 1 is good on that scale. And they're expecting a lot of confusion to come out because of the 2 different tiers and no one really understanding. So you have to look at, are they talking about the new formula based on how much revenue is going into the school or money to educate to get the kids to a certain level versus straight up numbers. So one is good, the other one is bad. And they're hoping that those numbers, the academic one is already set in play, so that should be coming out here in August. The new one, they're still tweaking how they calculate, how they merge that data. So other than that, they had an extremely busy season. If you want to see, these are all the permits for life safety, which is normal for, or not necessarily life safety stuff, but it's normal for summer. Schools get everything done now. So they'll be doing a lot of life safety inspections at the end of the cycle before school starts to make sure. So other than that, nothing fancy. So, and we will also need to add another member to the committee, so to represent the county.
Okay. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir.
You have the floor, sir.
Good morning.
Could you come up to the front where the microphone is and we can all hear you real good? Right here by the podium. Thank you.
Good morning. Chairman John asked me to come and talk a little bit today about some of the issues around flooding, not only in Illinois but also in Indiana. Is that fair to say? Talk about some of those issues. And let me begin by saying Governor Rauner did provide some tax credits in our last budget. Just was passed just the end of May, so there are some tax credits for Iroquois County. Not much, but it's better than what we had before, so that's a good thing. Governor Rauner has been here 3 times since he was governor, and he's only been governor for 4 years. So there's a number of issues, of course, around the flooding. Along with that, John Scher and I, along with a few others, have been meeting with folks from Indiana, some of the township folks there, to talk about what happens there and how it impacts us over here. I've been in touch with some of the folks from Kankakee County, the chairman, Andy Wheeler, and I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody here, so forgive me. But just a number of conversations that we've had, and we've been in conversations with the Department of Natural Resources, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, both in Illinois and Indiana, trying to understand how this works. And bottom line, we have a huge watershed. We have a huge watershed. When the water hits Indiana, it finds its way here. And the folks in Indiana have made some major changes. Some of the rivers, of course, wind around like ours do, but it's also some of the rivers that they've done now, they have dredged and straightened out. And so now water gets going, it comes here and it picks up speed and it brings sand with it. And then when it hits here, kaboom. How's that for a technical term, okay? That water hits here and it spreads out, and we have some major issues on this. And so what we're trying to do is, now of course this is, we've always tend to be more in a react mode, and that makes it tough. And I applaud the Iroquois Recovery Committee as they work with a number of people here, the flood victims. And of course, as there's flooding, a number of issues all around the places here. But I applaud what they're doing. But we have a number of issues trying to get this going. And so what's happened here recently, the folks from Indiana, Iroquois County, Kankakee County, and Iroquois County have been asked to put together money for a study. And this study will help to look at the broader perspective, the broader view of what this is about. Now, again, it's a huge watershed, and we really have been so much react mode before where this is trying to get ahead of the game to see what's going on with the water, where's it going, how's it impacting us. And there's a meeting tomorrow, in fact, in which we're going to go listen to what the folks are wanting to do. They're asking for money from every area to help make the study happen. I think they're asking Kankakee County about $25,000 to $30,000. They're asking about that same amount here from Iroquois County. My job as your state representative, and by the way, thank you for that opportunity, is not to make these decisions, but I feel my job is to provide you the information and the details of what seems to be coming this direction, and then let you as a county board and county board members make that call. And I wanted to thank you, by the way, for your efforts on the county board. This job is not easy. You're asked to make some decisions on occasion without not all the information. Is that fair to say? Maybe more often than not. Okay, we're on the same page. I get that. But I wanted, John asked me to come to share with you a little bit about what we're hearing. And we've got to, from my perspective, we need to find ways, whatever ways those are, on how we can become more proactive in getting things together. Maybe one more thing. We do have a meeting Thursday. We're getting representatives in Illinois from about 5 or 6 counties together. Department of Natural Resources, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, some folks from Indiana can talk about the water there and how are things working well with Illinois and Indiana, and just a number of things around flooding that I'm no expert, folks, please. But again, my job is to bring people together that knows more about this than I do, and then listen what their advice is and what their directions is. One last thing about money, if I may. I've been in touch with the governor's office, looking to see if there's money available at this point. They're looking to see if there's anything around that might help what we're looking for. But I don't have any weary words just yet. It's too early. They're looking to see. They haven't said no. Is that a good thing? They haven't said no. But we'll have to see what goes down the road on this. So, John, did we pretty much hit this, is what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think so. The money part is something that we don't know that much about yet, so.
Right.
A month from now, I'm sure we'll have a much better picture of what that is.
Okay.
So.
Any questions? No, we're all tired of the floods. Anybody not tired? It gets old. It gets old. So, well, anyway, I do thank you very much for all that you're doing again on the county board. It's not easy at times. And again, it's an honor to serve you as your state rep in the 106. And I'll be around for a little bit for some questions. I do need to scoot in just a little bit, but I'll be glad to talk with you, have questions. Of course, we do have an office right here in town by the tracks, so it's all good too. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other outside organization reports this morning? Seeing none, we'll go to the committee reports. Members of the county board, your committee to whom was referred policy and procedure would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on June 28, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Scherer, Behrens, Bills, and Sticknoth. Daniel Raymond, Kyle Anderson, and Troy Crumweedy were absent. Also present, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Yergler, County Engineer Joel Moore, 911 Director Eric Raymond, EMA Coordinator Eric Stacey, ICPHD Administrator Dee Shippert, Sheriff Derek Hagan, County Board Member Charlie Alt, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Mr. Sticknoth and seconded by Mr. Bills to approve the agenda. That motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. The committee chairman gave their monthly reports. Highway Chairman Russell Bills reported the Highway Department will receive their monthly reports and claims. Management Chairman Lyle Behrens confirmed his committee will be discussing snow removal in addition to regular reports and the policy for after-hours use of the county boardroom. The Judicial Committee will receive regular monthly reports. Tax Chairman Marvin Sticknoth will be given monthly reports from department heads. EMA Coordinator Eric Stacey reviewed the monthly EMA report. He has been busy revising the hazardous materials response plan, setting up equipment that was purchased with a grant in the EOC, and coordinating plans for evacuation at outdoor events throughout the summer should there be severe weather. The committee discussed the proposed donation of a vehicle for EMA that was sent back to the committee for further discussion before acceptance. The EMA coordinator said he spoke with several other EMAs throughout the state regarding their vehicle use policy. He said some had policies specific for EMA and others fell under their county's respective vehicle use policy. He commented that there are approximately 11 volunteers that go out and do damage assessment, so he would like a policy that specifies who could operate the vehicle. Eric went on to cite occurrences since he has been EMA coordinator, such as flooding and severe weather causing debris on roadways, in which a higher sitting vehicle with four-wheel drive and towing capability were needed. He also spoke about the ability to utilize mobile generators and hauling supplies for disaster response should he have a vehicle with towing capabilities. Mr. Barron questioned the current vehicle policy for other departments such as county highway and sheriff. It was noted the sheriff has a policy for vehicles that is specific to his department. However, the policy governing the county engineer's vehicle is that of the general county vehicle use policy. It was noted that working on a vehicle policy specific to EMA will be useless if the vehicle is not accepted. The vehicle can start out under the general use policy, and a policy specific to EMA could be worked on later. Mr. Bills asked if there were any stipulations that had been given regarding the donation. Eric said the only stipulation for the vehicle is that it must be used for EMA purposes. It was moved by Mr. Bills and seconded to accept the donation as presented based on a stipulation that it be used for EMA purposes. That motion carried unanimously by a roll call vote. Chairman Scherer updated the Committee on Flood Matters. He attended a meeting with State Representative Tom Bennett in Indiana that was held by the Iroquois River Conservancy District, in which they discussed the plans for the part of the Iroquois River that flows through Indiana. Those plans include cleaning out and reinforcing the banks of the river. He also commented that he talked to the Kankakee County Board Chairman regarding flooding of the Kankakee River and will attend a meeting regarding the river and its issues. There will also be a meeting on July 12 in Forest, Illinois with the East Central Illinois, West Central Indiana Flood Alliance, where they will be discussing better ways to address flood issues. He commented that floods aren't preventable, but there are steps that can be taken to minimize the impact of a flood. Chairman Scher confirmed that there are no unusual appointments for the month of July. The committee opened and reviewed correspondence. The committee reviewed claims. It was moved by Mr. Behrens and seconded to pay the claims subject to county board approval. That motion carried unanimously by a roll call vote. There was no old business. Mr. Stacy requested the committee consider the draft of an MOU with the ICPHD that he provided. Chairman Scher said it could be added to the agenda for approval at the August committee meeting. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Mr. Sticknath and seconded to adjourn the meeting at 9:52 a.m. That motion carried by a roll call vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, signed by all members present, and I move for its adoption. Mr. Bill seconds. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Mr. Persley.
This car, is there any specific amount of money that's budgeted for maintenance on this car? This car will be a money pit, guarantee it. It's got a lot of miles on it.
There's
Big
money in,
motor, it's going to be a gas hog. Tires to consider, there's tune-ups to be considered, oil changes, who knows how long the transmission's going to last. May be a long time, but this car will be a money pit. So is there any money budgeted for maintenance?
there's money this year, yes.
Pardon?
There is money in the budget this year, yes.
Do you know what kind of money is, or what does,
United States currency, yes.
pardon? You know how much money?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Does anybody agree with me? That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Mrs. Crowe,
Is there a written,
can you speak in the microphone, please?
Is there any type of written agreement or stipulation or any written document beyond a title with the Manier Foundation that's being entered into?
Not that I'm aware of. You have something, Eric?
I have on paper, written out, communication between my office and the Harold and Jean Miner Foundation, asking of any stipulations on considering the donation of this vehicle. And the Miner Foundation's response was, for EMA purposes, and try to keep the truck inside when non-use. That is it.
So where are we going to store it?
The main stipulation is for EMA use. Pretty easy stipulation.
And there may be room in the maintenance shed to store it when it's not used.
Mr. Hall, can you speak in the microphone, please? Thank you.
I find it hard that we can turn down a gift like this. We're in need of money. If it breaks down, we don't have money for it, we can sell it. If the whole plan doesn't work out, we can sell it. If it works out like I think Eric has plans for it, it'll be a benefit to the county without really a cost to us. Nobody can predict what the repairs are between now and then, but you can probably predict maybe what the repairs will be in advance of 4 or 5 years. I can in my car. I don't know why anybody else can't. I can't see why we would turn down a gift given to us for our use. This doesn't have anything to do about the way we sold cars in the past or how we used funds in the car pools at all. This is a gift to the county, and I should think we should thank the the donors here for what we're giving. And we ought to at least try it. They're willing to see us try it. Why can't we do the same?
Anybody else? Mrs. Crowe?
I've looked at the vehicle policy, and it expressly states that only employees of the county can drive any county vehicle, and I'm assuming from the minutes or I'm getting from the minutes that that's going to be the case. But then there's the waters get a little muddy when it says that there are 11 volunteers and that we could look towards an EMA policy down the road. So I'd like to, it sounds to me like there's a thought that down the road, non-employees are going to be allowed to drive this vehicle. That's the way it's looking to me.
What the minutes state is that the first step is to accept the donation, and then the policy will be developed further.
Exactly, that's what I just said. And it looks to me, when we mention 11 volunteers, that there is a thought that non-employees will be driving this vehicle in the future. And I think that creates an insurance problem.
I think that's something that we should wait and address at the time the policy is developed. Does anybody else have any comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Bills,
Yes.
Bowman,
No.
Crowe,
No.
Curtis,
Yes.
Aspargan,
No.
Johnson, McGinnis,
Yes.
Awful,
Yes.
Persley,
No.
Raymond,
Yes.
Schuer,
Yes.
Sticknot,
Yes.
Whitlow.
Abstain.
Got Raymond to call.
I call him.
Did you?
Alt,
Sorry. Yes.
Barron's,
Yes.
motion carries 9-5 with 1 abstain.
Okay, that motion passes. Finance Committee, Mr. Alt, Mr. Bills, are you reading it? Okay. Sounds like you've got a busy morning.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is what was handed to me, so, being a Boy Scout. Mr. Chairman, members of the County Board, your committee whom referred to Finance. Your committee referred as Finance would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administration Center on July the 5th, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present was Alt, Bills, and Ernie Curtis. Kyle Anderson, Mike McTaggart, Sherry Johnson, Dan Raymond were absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schuer, County Engineer Joel Moore, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Public Health Administrator Dee Shepard, Supervisor Assessments Bob Yergler, EMA Director Eric Cece, 9/11 Director Eric Raymond, Susie Warner from Homestar Insurance, Ginger Boas with U of I Extension, and Wendy Davis of the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. There was no public comment. Susie Warner of Homestar Insurance reported she received renewals from Health Alliance, Delta, Dental, and IMED. Health Alliance began with a 8.5% increase, but they were able to come back down to a 5.5% increase. Warner said that she is still working with them to bring the percentage down even more. Also, our current plan has has a deductible of $7,500, but due to the Affordable Health Care Act regulations, this amount cannot exceed $7,350. Health Alliance has updated our plan to reflect this change. There is a slight increase to the employee-only coverage with Delta Dental, but all the coverages have decreased. Lastly, IMED rates will remain the same for the next 4 years if decreased, if the county elects to renew them so they can lock in if they go another 4 years. Warner provided a renewal history stating last year's we received a 4.2 decrease due to switching to a POS PPO plan. In 2016, we received a 5% increase, and in 2015, we received no increase. The department heads gave their monthly reports. They are as follows. 9/11 Director Eric Raymond reported the vacancy in his department has been filled effective 7/3 of 18. EMA Director Eric Cece reported he has been working with Emergency Operations Center Technology Grant, which has allowed him to purchase computers. However, the grant does not cover the labor for the installation of the computers, and his budget cannot accommodate that cost either. Cece said that there is possibilities of him installing the computers with minimal assistance from area-wide. Discussion was held regarding amending the budget due to telecommunicators payout of the contract in arbitration. Russell Bills referred to the previous month's finance motion stating that the liability from the telecommunicators arbitration ruling is to be paid using monies from the Public Safety Fund. Ginger Boas with U of I Extension spoke to the committee about her levy request. As she provided information sheets and breakdowns of percentages of state matching, local funds, federal grants, federal funds and grants, youth development, and general revenue funds. She also explained that the local funds pay for the local staff. She asked that the levy requests remain the same. As there was no updates to the financial policies, Public Health Director Dee Shepard requested to review the policies due to language changes in some of her grants. Bills informed the committee that budget hearings will be held Monday, July the 23rd, and Wednesday, July the 25th at 9 a.m. The committee reviewed claims. Due to the lack of a quorum, the claims were forwarded to the Judicial and Public Safety Committee for approval. During the old business, Ernie Curtis asked for an update on the hiring of a new finance director. Bill said he has not received any updates. During new business, the committee discussed the fiscal year 19 budget requirements. Bill stated that the budget must be in place by December 1, 2018. In addition, the budget has to be posted 30 days prior for its approval. County Board Chairman John Schuer stressed the need for the Finance Committee to work a lot harder during budget this year due to recent changes. As there was no further business to come before the committee, the meeting was adjourned at 9:34 a.m. and that motion, well, there was no motion carried by voice vote, all which is respectfully submitted, and I would ask for a motion to approve this little nothing.
You can make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the finance report, seconded by Mr. McGinnis. Are there any questions or comments?
Well, should we get it? Should we get a... Okay, we got a second.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Sherry.
I just wondered, in regards to the technology grant, in that technology grant, are there going to be programming? Is that already done with those computers, or is that going to be a separate
Well, that'd be a
expense
question.
as well?
Yeah, Sherry, that's a good question, and I would have to actually let Eric go into more detail in that. There was a little bit of detail he did give. Eric, would you want to bring Sherry up to date on how much it needs to be done, or it's just more hardware work in this particular case that you may be doing, along with a little bit of help from area-wide, to take advantage of this equipment that you have received from the feds?
What I discussed is that this technology grant allows me to purchase computers, and I put in my budget when I applied for the grant 3 to 4 computers. However, it does not cover the cost of labor to install the computers. And underneath Iroquois County's current technology policy, I cannot install these computers onto the network. There's a risk if I do that myself, and exceptions are made underneath the purview of the finance director, I believe the policy says. So with that being said, our designated contractor should be installing the computers. That's just not in my budget. I was just bringing it up to the finance committee because it's something that I'll be trying to address in the coming months. I have not purchased these computers yet, but I do intend to. The physical hardware is nothing hard to do, and I do have some computer experience myself, so I could probably set up the basics of the computer. It's when I start installing things onto the computer and they're connected to the network, in theory, when somebody does that, it makes the entire county network susceptible. If I don't know what I'm doing and I install a nefarious program, it could be bad for the entire county network. So, I just brought that up, any other questions? Did I answer your question, Sherry?
Yeah, are you going to need any additional, I guess what, I didn't make it clear. Like, are you going to need to purchase separate programming outside of what is already available to hook in?
Sure. The programs that I'll need are pretty basic. Your basic Microsoft Office suite. I'm not expecting any specific programming that's largely different from any other normal computer setup.
So a package of like $500 would cover your 3 or 4 computers, is that what you're saying?
That all depends on the work area any contractor would have to do in installing the computers.
The programming package. Like if you purchased the Microsoft or you purchased that separate.
Could be. I haven't priced out software yet.
Okay.
The software will actually still be covered. The purchase of the software will still be covered underneath the grant. It's the actual labor of installing them that won't be covered.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crowe. Curtis. Aspargett.
Yes.
Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful.
Yeah.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond. Short.
Yes.
Stipnot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Barron's.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Motion carries 15-0.
That motion's approved 15-0. Mr. Barron's, management.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Management Services would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on July 2nd, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Barron's, Alt, Hasbargen, Johnson, and McGinnis. Kevin Bowman and Barb Awful were absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schur, Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake, ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert, Lori Cummings with SmartWatt, Jack Vansert with Garavant Lift, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Chad McGinnis and seconded by Larry Hasbargen to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. There were no updates on the county farm. Management Chairman Lyle Barron's discussed solar opportunities. Barron stated that the committee approved going forward with talking to solar farms, but ran into a dead end when looking for other companies to contact. Lori Cummings with SmartWatt may be able to provide us with additional names and contact information. Barron's added that the process has to be put out for bid due to the dollar amount, but we currently only have one company with interest. It would be in the best interest of the county to have at least 2 or 3 bids to choose from. The committee reviewed the snow removal bid packet. Barron's asked the committee for suggestions on changes to the bid packet in reference to the way the salt is bid on. Language changes were made in the bid packet, which included removing the option to bid salt application per pound and to add salt application into the total bid amount. It was moved by Charlie Alt, second by Sherry Johnson, to approve the snow removal contract, including changes as discussed. Motion carried by a voice vote. Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake reported the Administrative Center parking lot is scheduled to be resealed and striped this year. Drake said he spoke with Freehill Asphalt, and they didn't think the seal coat was necessary. They suggested striping and crack filling the parking lot. Doing this will be cost savings to the county. It was moved by Johnson, second by Hasbargen, to move forward with striping and crack filling of the Administrative Center parking lot. Motion carried by a voice vote. Charlie Alt introduced Jack Vansert with Garavant Lift to the committee. Alt invited Mr. Vansert to the meeting to give the committee options on obtaining access to the upper level of the Administrative Center. It was moved by McGinnis and second by Hasbargen to recess the meeting at 9:25 a.m. to allow the committee to view the upper level of the Administrative Center. Motion carried by a voice vote. It was moved by McGinnis, second by Johnson, to reconvene at 9:35 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote. Mr. Vansert provided the committee with a booklet of options. His recommendation for the committee is a Lula limited use, limited application elevator. The approximate cost is between $65,000 and $70,000. The policy for use of the county boardroom was discussed. The meeting room can only be reserved by contacting the county clerk. Arrangements must be made 1 week in advance rather than 48 hours. Johnson suggested a checklist to those using the room to ensure items such as lights and fans are turned off accordingly. Johnson said there should also be a form kept on file for persons reserving the room that lists their name, organization, purpose for reservation, entry door they are using, listing of our rules for the meeting room. Maintenance Supervisor Chris Drake reported on the following. The south parking lot at the courthouse did not previously have any handicap parking spots. The new parking lot has 2 handicap parking spots, but curbing work needs to be done to be ADA compliant. 2 new 3-phase fan motors were installed in the chiller in June. A residential refrigerator freezer was purchased for the jail. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Alt, second by Johnson, to pay the claims subject to county board approval. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. During old business, Hasbargen asked for an update on office space for Veterans Assistance. County Board Chairman John Shore replied, Superintendent of Veterans Assistance Jennifer Ingram is coordinating with her contractor. Everything from animal control has been moved out of the office. Also during old business, Ori Cummings with SmartWatch informed the committee the staffing grant was sent in time. Ameren will announce the grant award in August. Mr. Cummings sent the audit agreement to the state's attorney, Jim Devine, for his review. SmartWatch has assessed an estimated $41,000 in utility savings for the county. During new business, Barron's reminded the committee the AT&T long-distance contract is up in September. AT&T doesn't usually negotiate more than a month in advance. It was moved by Alt, second by Hasbargen, to adjourn the meeting at 10:40 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
The motion on the floor to approve the management report. Is there a second? Mr. Hasbargen, are there any questions or comments on the report? Mrs. Kroll?
We will review a policy later on the building use. It's in the process of being written. Is that correct?
Right. We haven't finalized anything yet.
And will that resolve the issue of the central committees being allowed to meet here?
At this point, I don't think that they would be meeting here because it would be just governmental bodies and renters of the building. Now, if you guys want that to be different, that can be changed. We welcome your input.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis. Hasbarger. Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Schuer.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Barons. Bills. Molman. Motion carried 15-0.
Yeah, motion is approved, 15-0. Tax Committee, Mr. Sticknah.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred tax would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on July 3rd, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present were Sticknot, Crumweedy, Awful, Persley, and Whitlow. Kokenauer and McTaggart were absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schuer, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Supervisor of Assessments Bob Bugler, ICPHD Administrator D. Shippert, ICPHD Grants Processor Sandy Sickman, Animal Control Director Dr. Youssef, County Board Candidates Roger Bard and John Zumwalt, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Jed Whitlow and seconded by Dan Persley to amend the agenda to allow Animal Control Director Dr. Youssef to provide his report prior to approving the claims. Motion carried by a voice vote. Dr. Youssef reported 11 dogs picked up and brought to the clinic. There were 8 cases investigated by Animal Control. The committee reviewed the claims. It was moved by Barbara Awful and seconded by Persley to pay the claim subject to County Board approval. Motion carried by a roll call vote. There were no public comments. County Clerk Lisa Fancher provided a list of election judge candidates for each of the Republican and Democratic parties. Fancher explained the certification process begins with the County Board. Once the list is approved by the County Board, it is taken to court for certification. The individuals listed will attend election judge training, and when training is complete, the list is taken back to court for official final certification. It was moved by Crumweedy and seconded by Whitlow to approve the list of Republican and Democrat election judges. Motion carried by a voice vote. The department heads gave their monthly reports. County Clerk Lisa Fancher reported the automatic voter registration law went into effect July 1st. Every person that applies for a new driver's license or state ID or makes a change of address will be automatically registered to vote unless they opt out. Fancher also said her office is continuing to work on the study to set the predictable fee schedule in the recording department as required by the new law. Supervisor of Assessments Bob Bugler reported his office continues to assist taxpayers with questions and concerns now that the first installment of taxes has passed. Tax Chairman Sticknot informed the committee discussions on the levy will begin next month. As there was no further business that come before the committee, it was moved by Crumweedy and seconded by Awful to adjourn the meeting at 9:18. Motion carried by voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted and signed by those present, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the tax report. Mr. Persley, second. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Mr. Hasbargen.
The animal control officer is a contract employee. Has any effort been made to provide a contract? Because in the last one, there was no effort ever made to provide a contract. And I think it would be in our best interest to have that.
Okay. We'll take that under advisement. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Curtis. Hasbargen. Johnson. McGinnis. Awful.
Yes.
Persley.
Yes.
Raymond. Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot. Whitlow. Alt. Behrens. Bills. Bowman. Crow.
That motion's approved 15-0. Health Committee, Mrs. Awful.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred, Health, would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administrative Center on July 3rd, 2018 at 9:30 a.m. Members present were Troy Crumweedy, Barbara Awful, Dan Persley, and Jed Whitlow. Michael McTaggart and Kevin Kokenauer were absent. Also present, County Board Chairman John Schur, IC PhD Administrator Dee Shippert, IC PhD Grants Processor Sandy Sickma, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, County Board Member Marvin Sticknoth, County Board candidates Roger Bard and John Zumwalt, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Dan Persley and seconded by Jed Whitlow to approve the agenda. Motion carried by voice vote. There were no public comments. The quarterly report from ABRA was distributed to the committee. ICPHD Administrator Dee Shippert reviewed the program summary report with the committee. Shippert noted re-inspections will increase next month. Also, Shippert will bring the food service and sanitation ordinance to the next meeting for approval. Changes will need to be made to our ordinance to go along with the 2017 FDA Food Code. One of the main differences is all medium-risk food establishments will be required to have a food manager at the establishment at all times. Shippert said the Health Department is continuing to give out free water sample testing for anyone with a well. 2 months ago, Shippert reported 37% of the tests were coming back with unfavorable results. Shippert distributed the grants and contract spreadsheet for the committee to review. Shippert also distributed a summarized financial sheet and explained how revenue from the tax levy is utilized. In order to be a certified local health department, you are required to have the following programs: food, water, septic, immunizations, communicable disease, TB control. Shippert explained these programs do not receive grant funding and are supported by the tax levy. Shippert reported ICPHD is a 53.6% of their tax levy. Shippert said she will be requesting the same levy amount for fiscal year 19. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Barbara Awful and seconded by Jed Whitlow to adjourn at 10:25 a.m., all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Health Committee report. Is there a second? Mr. Whitlow, are there any questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Apple. Persley. Persley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills. Bowman.
Yes.
Crow. Curtis.
That motion's approved 15-0. IT Committee, Mr. Bills.
Mr. Chairman, members of the County Board, your committee whom referred transportation or IT would beg leave to submit the following report on the matters before them. Your committee met at the Administration Center on July the 3rd, 2018 at 10:32 a.m. Members present was Troy Crumweedy, Russell Bills, and John Schur. Michael McTaggart was absent. Also present, County Clerk Lisa Fancher, Public Health Director Dee Shippert, Supervisor Assistants Bob Yergler, Michael Tabor with Area Wide, and Wendy Davis with the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by John Schur and seconded by Russell Bills to approve the agenda. Motion carried by voice vote. There was no public comments. Michael Tabor with Area Wide addressed the committee regarding the 2018 budget recommendations, which include PC, software upgrades, server and network maintenance. Tabor noted Windows 7 will will stop being supported with security upgrades in 2020, and we need to ensure that all PCs continue to be replaced on a regular basis. Area-wide is currently working with the state's attorney's office and the public health department on PC upgrades for their office. Items recommended for upgrades this year include the finance office and administration or assessment office. In addition to the PCs, some of the servers will be expiring in 2020 also. Tabor will gather more information regarding the servers that need to be replaced. Public Health Administrator Dee Shippard informed Tabor that the Health Department has a separate terminal server, but now their software is cloud-based and the server is no longer needed. IT Chairman Troy Crumwitty suggested the removal of the terminal server being added to the project list. Tabor discussed the recent UPS issues, meaning the interruptible power supplies issues, and said the outlets were checked in the server room, but there was no problems found. Also, the backups do not currently have enough space to retain 30 days. Additional hardware will be needed to be purchased to do so. Crumwitty requested Tabor provide the committee with different options and pricing. County Clerk Lisa Fancher informed the committee the state is set to receive $13.9 million from the federal government through the HAVA program. In order to be able to get the grant money, the county will have to participate in a cyber navigator program provided by the state. The committee also discussed the county's website. The website is out of date and not user-friendly. Crumwitty suggested the website also be added to the project list and asked for a quote to be sent to the county. Area-wide also provides a security awareness training program for employees. Tabor explained that there is a one-time $199 setup fee and a charge of $713 for each 25 users. Tabor reminded the committee that department heads received a list of software to uninstall from the workstations, but this task has not been completed. The list of software includes unauthorized software on computers or software that is no longer needed. Lastly, Executive Administrator Amanda Longfellow spoke about the UPS issues, stating there has been failures since April. As there is no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Bills and seconded by Scher to adjourn at 10:40 a.m. Motion carried by voice vote, all which is respectfully submitted and signed by those present, and I would move for the adoption of this report.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the IT committee report. Is there a second? Mr. Ault. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Mrs. Crowe.
Lisa, what is a cyber navigator program and what is the state trying to get this to do? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, since 2016, when the State Board of Elections in Illinois and some other states were hacked into, cybersecurity has come to be very, very important in elections. And HAVA, H-A-V-A, stands for Help America Vote Act. So the federal government had this money set aside to give to states, to give to election authorities to upgrade their election equipment because it's aging, and now that there's more issues with cybersecurity, it's become very, very, very important. The HAVA money is going to go for cybersecurity rather than for new equipment. So it's kind of all happening kind of fast and furious. I believe today is the day that the State Board of Elections is in Chicago discussing the Cyber Navigator program, what all it will entail. It doesn't really require a whole lot from us, but one of the things that will happen is somebody, I don't know who, will be assessing all counties' IT infrastructure for weaknesses and things like that. And some training is involved, which Bree and I have both already taken some online training. It's a lot of things like that. So today they're going to be discussing how the money is going to be handed out to the counties and exactly what it will be for. But it will be all IT, mostly IT related, or IT and internet security related. So I believe that's going to help a lot in order for us to be able to have those training sessions that they talked about. And also, because our website is out of date, one of the main things that hackers can get into is your website. And ours is rather weak that way, and where they can't change any results, any actual results from our elections, they can change what the results look like in order to cause confusion and havoc, and that's really the goal. So we don't know exactly what all will be required to be a part of the program, but it won't be too much, and we definitely will be a part of the program. One last thing is that you used to kind of have the mindset of, well, nobody's coming after Iroquois County's 18,000 votes. But honestly, smaller counties are actually considered a little weaker because they have less funds and stuff for the security. So it's even more important now that us as a small county does everything they can to try to prevent any kind of hacking or issues on election day. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the IT report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful. Kersley.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Barons.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Aspargan.
Yes.
Motion carried 15-0.
That motion's approved 15-0. Judicial and Public Safety, Mr. Behrens.
Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board, your committee to whom was referred Judicial and Public Safety would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the courthouse on July 5th, 2018 at 10:30 a.m. Members present were Behrens, McGinnis, Crow, Curtis, Awful, and Whitlow. Vince Lemie was absent. Also present, Coroner Bill Cheatham, Probation Supervisor Barb King, 911 Director Eric Raymond, County Board Chairman John Schur, County Board Member Charlie Alt, and Wendy Davis with the Times Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Ernie Curtis and seconded by Jed Whitlow to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There were no public comments. Probation Supervisor Barb King reviewed the Probation and Court Services Activity Report for June with the committee. Coroner Bill Cheatham reported no updates for the month. Chad McGinnis asked for an update on the opioid issue in Iroquois County. Cheatham reported there have been 5 drug overdoses for the year. There were 6 drug overdoses last year. 911 Director Eric Raymond distributed the ETSB report for June. Raymond reported the vacancy in his department was filled July 3rd. Raymond reported he will continue to be trained and work on the radio when he is needed. Circuit Clerk Lisa Hines' monthly report was distributed to the committee for their review. The committee reviewed claims, including the finance claims and Planning and Zoning Committee claims. Judicial Chairman Lyle Behrens explained the claims from the Finance Committee were forwarded to Judicial due to the lack of a quorum, and the Planning and Zoning Committee claims were forwarded to Judicial Committee due to the meeting being canceled. It was moved by McGinnis and seconded by Whitlow to pay the Planning and Zoning Committee claims subject to County Board approval. Roll call vote was taken. Motion carried. It was moved by Barb Awful and seconded by Whitlow to approve the Finance Committee claims subject to County Board approval. Roll call vote was taken, motion carried. It is moved by McGinnis and seconded by Awful to pay the judicial and public safety claims subject to County Board approval. A roll call vote was taken, motion carried. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Donna Crowe and seconded by Curtis to adjourn the meeting at 10:53 a.m. Motion carried by a voice vote, all of which is respectfully submitted, and I move for its adoption.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the judicial and public safety report. Mrs. Awful seconds. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful. Frisbee.
Yes.
Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Barons.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Crowe. Yes. Curtis. Hasbargen.
Yes.
Johnson. Motion carried 15-0.
Yeah, motion's approved 15-0. Transportation and Highway Committee, Mr. Bills.
Mr. Chairman, members of the County Board, your committee whom referred Transportation and Highway would beg leave to submit the following report on matters before them. Your committee met at the Iroquois County Highway Building on July the 6th, 2018 at 9 a.m. Members present was Bills, Alt, Bowman, Crowe, Hashbargen, Sherry Johnson, and Chad McGinnis. Also present, County Engineer Joel Moore and Wendy Davis of the Times-Republic. The meeting was called to order. It was moved by Larry Hashbargen and seconded by Kevin Bowman to approve the agenda. Motion carried by a voice vote. There was no public comment. The claims and financial reports for the month were reviewed. It was moved by Bowman and seconded by Charles Alt to pay the bills subject to County Board approval. A roll call vote was taken. That motion carried. County Highway was $77,870. County Bridge was $94,597. Township Bridge was $272,727. County Motor Fuel Tax was $322,550. Township Motor Fuel Tax was $820,502. County Engineer Joel Moore reviewed and gave a project update. He stated that work on the County Highway 4, Milks Grove, is finishing up. There was also 2 bridges and 2 large culverts. Moore informed the committee he was contacted by the HBO film crew about using the Chapel Bridge for a pilot for one of their shows. Their plans was to drive a bus across the bridge. Moore met with the crew and explained the only way for this to happen is to have the bridge analyzed with an engineering firm and to do any upgrades that would be necessary. The consulting firm began the work and modeled the bridge using all new steel, but the bridge still wouldn't support the weight of the bus. Lastly, Moore said that he had advertised for a maintenance 2 position. As there was no further business to come before the committee, it was moved by Sherry Johnson and seconded by Donna Crowe to adjourn at 9:25 a.m. That motion carried, all of which is respectfully submitted, signed by all those present, and I would move for the adoption of this report.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the Transportation and Highway Committee report. Is there a second? Mr. Curtis, are there any questions or comments on the report? Mrs. Crowe?
Where we're talking about the HBO, the sentence that says the consulting firm began the work and modeled the bridge, that sounds like they actually began to work on the bridge, and I think it more accurately should read, they began the analysis.
Yeah,
They began.
They use a computer model to analyze the bridge.
So I think we should make that a bit more accurate and use began the analysis.
Are there any other questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Awful. Yes. Frisbee.
Yes.
Raymond. Shore.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Behrens.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Bowman. Crow.
Yes.
Curtis. Aspargan. Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Motion carries 13-0.
Okay, 13-0, that motion's approved. Claims. Everybody has a copy of the claims before them. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Whitlow is seconded by Mr. Alt. Are there any questions or comments on the claims? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll, please.
Persley.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Whitlow.
Yes.
Alt. Behrens.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Crow. Yes. Curtis. Aspargan.
Yes.
Johnson. McGinnis.
Yes.
Awful. Yes. 13-0.
That motion's approved, 13-0. Appointments are listed on your agenda there. Is there a motion to approve the appointments? Mr. Alt, is there a second? Mr. Bills, any questions or comments on the appointments? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Old business. There any old business this morning? Mr. Persley.
Mr. Chairman, my comments are on the Planning and Zoning Committee. Over the past 7 months, we've only met one time. We've missed 6 meetings. I move to either dissolve the committee or start having meetings. Thank you.
Okay, you can't make that motion. It's not on the agenda, sir.
What? Pardon me?
You cannot make that motion. It's not on the agenda.
If that,
Place it on a policy procedure committee as an agenda item.
can we put that on the policies and procedures agenda for next time?
Yes, sir, we can.
Pardon?
We can, yes, sir.
Okay, I would like to see that done.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other old business this morning? Is there any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Bills, is there a second? Mr. Alt, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned.